bankers, accountants, financial professionals, and insurance agents of Reddit. What's the worst financial decision you've seen a client make? Tax accountant here. Where do I begin? I had one client that had the money to pay for his kids' college without taking out any loans. Instead, he decided to take out a loan on his house to pay for college in order to claim a deduction on his tax return. When I explained to him that the benefits he'll get from claiming the interest deduction on his return would not outweigh the amount he spends on interest, he was certain I was wrong. Even after I showed him the total amount of interest he'd pay and compared that to the expected tax benefit he'd receive for it. Another client was contributing to her 401k and then pulling it out right away. She thought that this way she saved money on her taxes. What was really happening was the money was going into the 401k pre-tax, which is where she got the idea that it saved her money, and she would then pull that pre-tax money out. But then she had to pay the tax plus a 10% penalty for early distribution once she actually filed her taxes. Took a lot of explaining to get her to understand that she was paying 10% more on that money than she needed to, all because of this crazy loophole she thought she had discovered. I had one client that won the lottery. It was a $10,000 a month annuity for life, give or take. Pretty sweet deal, right? Well, he never went and claimed the prize because he didn't want to pay the taxes. I told him F the taxes. He can retire and never work another day in his life while still earning $120,000 a year. Nope, he'd have to pay the taxes, so he didn't go claim the prize. I think he even threw the ticket out. Dude makes like $60,000 a year and he turned down the lotto winnings. Like, if you're not going to claim the winnings because you're that against paying any sort of taxes, why bother playing the lottery at all? There are so many that they all start to blend together. But goddamn, the dumb ones are really dumb. Morals of the story: the benefits you'll get from the tax deduction will never outweigh the benefit of not having to make that payment at all. If you have no clue about tax law and you think you've discovered some loophole, you're probably wrong. If you're literally being handed $120,000 a year for just existing, F the tax implications and just take the effing money. Had a client who was extremely wealthy about 8 years ago tell us he was no longer going to use our services. Last year we get an extremely angry phone call from his wife, asking us why we haven't been filing their taxes. We showed her the paperwork where her husband said he was no longer going to use our services. And then shit hit the fan. This dude apparently just decided he wasn't going to pay taxes anymore, and didn't file a return for 8 years and had been lying to his wife. They were rich and owed almost $1.4 million in taxes, not including interest and penalties. And oh yeah, they got absolutely fried by the IRS. If you are in a relationship with someone, you need to be involved in financial decisions. Never let one party handle all of the money and make all of the decisions. That is how bad things happen in both business and in relationships. I'm a financial advisor. I have a few. 1. The client who tried to time the market with the coronavirus drop back in March. He was 55 and had a 7-figure amount in his 401k and was 90-10 equity to bonds. His plan was to time the market by shifting his entire allocation to a money market and bonds, wait for the market to drop more, and then shift back into equity. This was at the end of March. I tried to warn him. He didn't answer my subsequent calls. 2. I've had so many people with credit card debt who talk about investing and saving for a big purchase, but they have 5 figures of 20% plus credit card debt. I'd rather focus on investments for this call. Well, you're gonna get 10% in the market if it's a decent year, and you're paying 26% in interest, so you're losing money. You have a 50% debt to income ratio, you can't get a mortgage. Yes, I know the kids really wanted a pool this year, but you have $50,000 of credit card debt to pay down before it makes sense for you to start saving for their college. 90% of the time they seem irritated and ghost me because I don't have some magic solution to make their credit card debt disappear. 3. I had a client who wanted to know how to give away her 401k because her and her husband's pensions were already enough for their lifestyle, and she didn't want to be in a higher tax bracket. She was in her 60s, worth millions, and did not understand how marginal tax brackets work, or even basic math. She wasn't looking to get a deduction through gifting stock. She clearly was nowhere near that level of understanding taxes. She just spent her entire life working hard and being extremely frugal, which led to her being a millionaire who lacked a basic understanding of money. Not really a bad decision, but I found it really interesting. 4. I had a client who was taking a distribution from his 401k every year pre-59.5 and rolling some of it into an IRA and putting some of it in his brokerage. He inquired as to if I thought this was a good strategy. I inquired as to why he was doing this and what his goal was. He thought diversification was the amount of money he had in each account. 5. A lady whose monthly expenses slightly exceeded her income, and she put the difference on credit cards. Her tax refund was absolutely massive compared to her salary, to the point where she could afford her lifestyle without going into credit card debt by just reducing her withholding. She wasn't willing to reduce her withholding because she liked putting the windfall from her tax refund into a savings account for big purchases. After almost an hour, I still could not get through to her that she was building high interest debt, putting herself in a hole that will take years to climb out of, to give the IRS an interest-free loan, which could be literally entirely avoided by budgeting for those purchases and reducing her withholding. Well, how do I get them to pay me interest? I'm not giving them a loan. I have to pay them every year. Why do I have to pay interest but they don't? I am proud of the fact that I remained patient on that call. I'm still not sure if she grasped that the IRS and her credit card lender are two different things. I tried. She ended up cutting the call short, saying she wasn't getting a ton of value out of it and wanted to get a second opinion. Not my client. Saw a guy invest about $600k in a startup. He confirmed in the 1.5 pages agreement that he was fully informed about everything going on. Please, if you invest in that size, ask a lawyer to at least review the agreement. Needless to say, said guy's net worth is $600k less now. I've seen people finance cars at over 30% interest, paying $500 per month for an 8-year-old Mustang, and will end up paying well over 2 times the car's value, assuming they pay the loan off. Edit. Since this kinda blew up, here's a SAR for all the active duty, American, military people. Any loan you took out prior to either enlistment or deployment is eligible to have the rate reduced to either 6.99 or 7.99%. Google it before you call your bank, as it's been a couple years, and laws change. All you have to do is call your creditor and provide them with your orders, and they have to reduce the rate, even retroactively, to the date you deployed or enlisted. Again, Google it. A private company announced a special dividend to all shareholders, as of date of record 1 month in the future, $8.30 per share dividend. There was an option holder with 300,000 options at a 10-cent strike price. He did not exercise them. Had he exercised his options for $30,000, he would have been paid $390,000 the following month. Former manager at a credit union. One seemingly smart lady in her 70s got one of those lottery scam letters, saying she won, but needed to send them money to process her winnings. They kept getting her to send more and more money. We were telling her it was a scam from day one, but we couldn't stop her. She burned through her IRA, which had about $200k, took out a loan against her paid off house for another $200k, sold her jewelry, probably paid out $500k total before finally realizing we truly did everything we could, got her family involved. Several of us would confront her every time she came in and would plead with her to stop. It was sad, but at some point you have to cut your losses and realize it's a scam. Edit. I was the assistant manager at that point. We brought our risk management department and other higher ups in, but they wouldn't close her account. The whole $500k was not with us. We had no idea about the loan, jewelry, and some money in other accounts that she gave out, until after it was all over. She even thanked us later on and wishes she listened to us. Watched a client walk out of my office after I explained the risk in liquidating his 401k to start his own business. He started it with no management experience or business model. Real fly by the seat of his pants kinda guy. Wanted to start a career flipping houses in a college town. Turn them into upscale rentals. Did it in a bad neighborhood and lost everything. 1. The client who joined an MLM and racked up $500,000 worth of losses before finally listening to us and quitting. 2. The client who spent $40,000 on Farmville over 3 months. 3. The The clients who give their adult children allowances that exceed my salary, fancy cars, and houses, without expecting them to ever hold down a job themselves.